to that factory farm where H1N1 came from and find out if they get carbon credits. Because that is what is going to be happening. We're going to be creating incubators for new industrial hazards through industrial agriculture with carbon credits. I'd love to go down there and figure that out if that's actually what happened in that case. But our concern, like Denmark, for instance, does not allow subtherapeutic use of antibiotics in any farms here. That's a national policy. So once again, we're enjoying something we do not
mass enough consensus to try and apply pressure. I think then you would get the organic, sustainable agricultural community to join that force. Or can we work together to help make that happen? But
all their focus is on the primary market, determining the environmental integrity of the emissions offset credits. And there's been very little thought given to the interaction between the primary market, which is the first sale of those credits, and then what happens to them later, because carbon allowances...
Farm animal welfare. So we have a food business team who engage with all the big retailers, all the big producers such as Unilever, Cadbury, Coca-Cola, whatever. And it might not be names you like to hear in this setting because some of them are maybe do not do the best work. There's going to be damaging environmental and animal welfare consequences. Like I just mentioned, animal welfare is going to be...
farming that small farmers while the major food producers are doing. So I think...
Bolivia last week offered that if anyone from Klimaforum was interested, they would take proposals that we, the people, could put into the climate negotiations as part of the drafting for the Copenhagen Treaty, and that they would actually propose it into the COP negotiations. It remains to be seen whether or not that happens. I was actually involved with that on Friday, and there were a group of us who ended up drafting for 9 hours. I was the only lawyer involved. In fact, we all came from very diverse backgrounds. Indigenous, one was an accountant, one was a scientist, an activist, musician, so there was a really wide remit. But what was very interesting was that there was a collective convergence on what we believed should happen. And what was truly remarkable was that by the end of 9 hours, we came up with an incredibly ambitious document that came up with proposals that after 15 years of negotiations, our governments haven't even looked at. And the starting point really was that trading has to stop. That's what they said. To stop would be uneconomic. It would lead to loss of jobs. Public demand that it remain. And industry ultimately said it was a necessity, that it must continue. It's very important that we try and shift.
We're in a dynamic where we're talking about cap and trade has all kinds of flaws, but one of them is the negotiating dynamic. What it ends up doing is putting nations and industries and regions in a competitive war over allocation of the remaining carbon that we can emit and maintain a planet that's livable. And as long as there's this planetary food fight going on, we won't reach any kind of usable agreement, and in fact, the food fight will never end. Instead, as you might guess from the name of my organization, what I think we need to do is agree to price CO2 emissions. And I don't think we even need to agree internationally on the same price. If we set a price in a large block of countries, for example, the United States would be big enough to do that, or the European Union.
So, what's the relationship? Why do we spend 700 miles? Very close to your profile.